Hi ladies, it's Megan. Sorry I couldn't make it to the meeting this week, but here is my video of my outline for you guys to look over. Starting off, I just wanted you guys to think about this question. Have you ever had a horrible lesson and couldn't find a way to relate to it at all? Maybe you ask yourself, how does this pertain to me in my life? But you still came up with nothing or not very strong answers. This can be very common in any form of teaching and learning, and it can happen all throughout life. So it doesn't just happen once or at a certain age. Um, David Merrill created the component display theory, and in this theory, he talks about how you can be better about um, getting things to relate to the participants or students. One of the things that he talks about is that you can use examples in stories. Teaching is made more interesting and effective by the use of appropriate stories. So that means they basically just have to relate or be of some relevance to the people that you're talking to. Um, so yeah, you have to make your stories and examples relatable, and then you can also invite participation for the audience to tell their stories and tell their feelings and examples that relate to the lesson. Another thing that's in the theory is to find instructional balance. Um, CDT, component display theory, is a reminder to balance. And that doesn't mean that there has to be equal time or 50-50 for the instructor and the audience. But it does make sure that the leader takes initiative and that the participants are able to join in, because it really does help when the audience feels involved instead of the leader just preaching at the pulpit. Um, and it also helps them stay awake or for whatever reason. And then there's also learning beyond the classroom. And I wanted to throw out a question, and that question is, how can we ensure that the people and participants that we teach take it home with them? And so this is something that I know for me, I don't really take home my lessons and stuff. I do try, but obviously it can be kind of hard from school and church and all these lessons that we have. We can make sure that we practice what we teach and the principles that are taught outside of the classroom and when it's taught to us. So um, I'll repeat the question just so you guys can think about it. How can we ensure that the people we teach will take it home with them? So in the chapter, it talks about the first principles of instruction, and these are some great ways that we can try to make our lessons be helpful, meaningful, and better for the people we teach and instruct. And it also is better for us because it helps us have a little bit more guidance. So the first principle of instruction, the first one of that, is that instruction addresses real problems. And Merrill said that learning is facilitated when the learner is engaged in solving a world problem. So basically, it means that these problems are real and personal. Um, I put that we should also invite participants to reflect on their own experiences, because there could be other people who have been through the same trials or tribulations, and having that example um, to kind of lean on when somebody is going through it can really help that person understand their situation better and be able to understand that they're not alone. Also, when it is something that we can see happening or have experienced it, it can be easier for us to come up with realistic solutions. So I think it's kind of hard to um, imagine a unicorn and it getting lost in the woods, because we unicorns aren't real, and we obviously don't know how to get a unicorn out of the woods. But if it's getting a cat down from a tree, we can have a better understanding, like get a ladder or call the fire department. I don't know if these are everyday um, problems that we face, but they're more realistic. Moving on to number 2, activating existing knowledge. Learning is facilitated when existing knowledge is activated as a foundation for new knowledge. So it's easier for new things, to stick to old things. You 1 plus 1 is 2, but then we learn multiplication, and then 2 times 2 is 4. And so we kind of have the foundation that we can build upon, but we also need that existing knowledge to actually come through and have the person trying to understand, have that connect for them. It brings the existing knowledge to the conscious level. So if you have existing knowledge and you don't know it's there, then it's not really going to help you. So we're going to have to try to bring that forward. A couple things that I wrote down about this is that when we can remember information about the topic of interest, we can participate and bring our own thoughts to the table. And this was basically just what I already went over. And also to make sure that we are trying to make these things stick, we have to make sure that the participants are encouraged to reflect on what they've already learned. We see this a lot in this class. We have the existing knowledge from our previous courses of the class. And so we are told to call upon the knowledge that we have already experienced in the classes that we've taken. And so we need to start using those foundation classes that we took to put it all together and create just a bigger lesson that of all of our classes combined, if that makes sense. Principle number 3 is the power of demonstration. New knowledge is demonstrated to the learner. That's basically what this is about. This not only helps those who are visual learners, but helps those who haven't fully grasped the idea, because it's taught in a different way instead of a lecture or on the whiteboard or something. It could be acted out or through a video. So in one of my classes that I've already taken, the helping relationship, we practice a lot of conversations to help one another and our peers in the class. And it was for us to better understand different ways we can talk to people and to help them understand their own thoughts. This allowed me to not only talk about what the scene was and would be like, but actually be in that scene. And so it was really neat because we went over through books and stuff, but then we were able to act it out and actually immerse ourselves in that situation. Principle 4 is applying new knowledge. In the book it says, learning is facilitated when the learner is required to use his or her new knowledge to solve problems. Practice this in all settings, like if you're trying to be more kind and patient with others, don't only practice it with your spouse or your children, but your parents, your friends, the people at the grocery store in front of you. So if that's something you're trying to learn, make sure you practice it. Merrill said that most learners learn from the errors they make, especially when they are shown how to recognize the error, how to recover from the error, and how to avoid the error in the future. So there's been a lot of times in my life where, especially in school, where I made errors and I didn't know what I did to get them, basically. So when I went to correct it, I wasn't able to figure out what I was actually trying to correct. And this caused a lot of grief for me because I was trying to correct my way of thinking and what I was doing wrong, but I didn't have any counsel or guidance to figure out what it was that I needed to fix. So we need to be aware that when we are trying to fix things, we know where the error was, and if we are the person who's critiquing, then we are able to pinpoint that out for people who are trying to be better. And then I also thought about that we need to practice what we learn, but we also need to study them. And so that's just a quick little reminder. And then principle number 5 is new knowledge integrated into the learner's world. In the book, it says learning is facilitated when new knowledge is integrated into the learner's world. Keeping up with what one learns is important and allows them to get better at it. And that's basically why we study and practice at the things that we do. And then Meryl mentioned that there is a great satisfaction for the student to become a mentor. And once we become the teacher, we're excuse me, we're pretty good at what we're teaching. And I think that us in this group and in this class, we can learn how to become the teacher instead of the student. And so we're kind of taking on that role of we actually know what we're actually talking about. And that doesn't come easy and it doesn't come overnight. So we need to practice and study. And hopefully all of these things will, we can put in our lesson plans to help ensure that the participants in the audience that we teach are able to take what we are trying to talk about and teach them home with them. And then in closing, with all of these ideas and principles of learning that Meryl came up with, Elder Russell M. Nelson said, education is the difference between wishing you could help each other or help other people and being able to help them. I'll say that again because I kind of screwed it up. Education is the difference between wishing you could help other people and being able to help them. And I think through our schooling and getting an education, we are really and making sure that we can be able to do the things that we want to. And we're not just wishing anymore. We are on the path to actually guiding and helping people, especially in this major, which is really great. And so that is it. I appreciate you guys watching this, and I'm looking forward to your guys' comments. Thanks. Bye.